Welcome everybody. You're lucky enough to get a seat. Sold out show tonight. Sold out
Yeah.
show, folks. Standing room only. Tis the time of year. You're in the right spot. So we got you covered here, and we're gonna cover a fair amount. So we'll give everybody a second. We'll do some kind of quick intros and housekeeping stuff because again, like I said, like you saw in kind of the uh, in the material that promoted tonight, we got a lot to cover. So we will save time for the content as we usually do. It's always fun for us to see, where are you in the world? We're usually very well represented geographically. You're represented pretty well geographically, even here between the three of us. And then which graduating class you're a student? Throw it in the chat for us. Um, Throw it in the chat and let us know kind of where you're at. Oh, Mass right out of the gates, winning as usual, as we would expect, and
All over the
as
place.
you can see, all over the place, right? Mostly, I think I saw some bulldogs in there. Jason caught a couple of bulldogs, some Jersey girls, Peggy, right? Beautiful. Yeah, and this is great. Yeah, mostly 26 as we would expect. U 27s and U 28s. I promise you, you're not too soon. You
No, it's
you are not
hugely valuable.
by any stretch. Um, so by way of quick introduction, my name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders here at College Aid Pro. Our whole deal is just to be the source of truth through this thing, right? There's so much freaking noise out there. There's so much anxiety that is associated with this process for good reason, right? It's your kids and your money. I'd be worried about you if you weren't feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So that makes a ton of sense if I'm describing you even a little bit. But our job is to help you understand how this works, take it another step further, help you understand how it's going to work for you and for your family and for your kid, and then just send you off with action items, right? That's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to show you how this thing works. We're going to show you how it works for you, and then we're going to send you off with some action items, something that we'll say more than once. It's kind of been a mantra for us internally here, and we've been preaching it. Uh, what is it? Action absorbs anxiety, right? So it's like you're feeling like, oh my God, where do I start with this process? What do I do next? We're going to give you some action from here. Action absorbs anxiety. And guess what? You guys are on second base here. You showed up tonight, right? You showed up, and that's a
Yeah,
beautiful
pat yourself on the back.
100%. So let's see. So Peggy will say hi quick. Peggy, the fairy godmother of financial aid, Jersey girl. You heard me say earlier. She is lived in a few spots now. New to the Tucson, Arizona um, area, and then we got Jason by way of Columbus, Ohio. Now a Georgia Bulldog there. So just
Oh,
well,
still,
sorry, not a different.
still a Buckeye, but
Use my language.
Don't brag about that.
But this
T-O.
guy just breeds competitive football teams. Wherever he goes. But Jason is largely going to be just in the Q&A tonight, right? So I know I told you to put some stuff in the chat. We'll have you do that occasionally, but by and large, we want you putting questions in the Q&A because whichever one of us is not speaking, and we kind of, we got Jason tagged as the automatic pro in there. We're going to be answering your questions. Now, a lot of you are going to ask specific questions. We want you to. We're going to say we need more information. We'd have to learn a little bit more from you. Book some time for us one-on-one. That's not a lazy answer. It would be reckless for us to suggest anything else when you ask us, we're divorced, who should complete the FAFSA? How do I value my business? What about my real estate, right? We just would have to dig in. We're not dismissing you. That is just the correct way for us to answer that here. So, Peggy, you want to say hi quick and we'll get the party started?
Yeah, so as Matt said, I mean, I've lived all over the place. I'm currently in Arizona by way of Seattle. So been doing this for well over a decade. Was in the financial advising space before that. I'm a financial planner at heart. Probably my best credential is I have twins and they're both done. They're both getting married. They support themselves and they had great college experiences without tons of stress. So I'm here to tell you, you can do it. And we're here to guide you through it. So happy to be here. And again, kudos to you for being here. As Matt said, the AAA action absorbs anxiety, but like just don't drift through this process. If you feel a little overwhelmed after this, we're gonna we're gonna tell you what you can do after to continue to get support and not drift. So Jason, you want to say hi real quick and then we will kick this off?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Jason. I feel your pain. I have two kids in college right now myself. I got a senior and a sophomore. So I've been in your seat. Also, I have a ninth grader as well, so still one to go. But down here in Savannah, Georgia, as Matt said, by way of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, the Ohio State University. I've seen some Go Buck signs in there, so that's always encouraging because we are definitely going to win back-to-back national championships this year.
Calling his shot.
We're not going to be playing Notre Dame in that game again, though. I will say, since we already have 2 losses, so we don't need to repeat that. Okay. You can see we're all big football fans here. So, okay, let me share my screen. And somebody said you still won't beat Michigan. That game, I don't know who I
Oh,
can. I
oh,
don't know who I can
oh,
root
come
for
on.
in that
Oh,
game because I can't stand either team.
it hurts my heart.
All right, here we go. So I don't know if Matt mentioned, but if you're new to us, sometimes we'll ask that. You might be new, which we love our newbies. We are College Aid Pro, and we are very mission driven, empowering families to shop smarter for college. That's exactly what we're doing tonight. The more you understand this journey you're on, the better you can navigate it for yourselves. And if you're married, within the parents, and then even more importantly with your child and setting expectations. So it's really important to like I said, to not drift through this and understand where you're going. I've also seen a bunch of questions. Is this being recorded? Yes, there's a mom, and thank you for doing this. She's like, I'm at my son's college senior night and I'm gonna have to get off in a minute. So thanks for jumping on when you're not even at home. That we're very honored. But yeah, it's being recorded. If you want to share away when you get the recording tomorrow. So don't worry about that. And as Matt said, and we're gonna remind you, don't put your questions in the chat. Jason's going to be sitting in Q&A. Whoever's not talking is going to be in Q&A. So please put them all in the Q&A, and you can be anonymous. So that's another win there.
Great questions already. We're off to the races. Keep them coming.
Yeah, I already saw some good ones while we were doing intros, which is always a sign that we have a great audience. So, everybody got an email earlier to set up their free MyCap account. Matt's going to put a link in the chat. If you haven't done it, a lot of you already did. We can see that on the back end. Just do it. Super easy. You can put in up to 3 schools. And we're going to start this presentation by just giving you, it's going to be fast. And you can tune into other presentations to get a slower version of it. But how does financial aid work? And you need to understand that to understand where these financial aid forms fit in this process. And so just get that done. If you can have it open on the side. And as I'm about to talk through some stuff, you can see the reality for your family. Plus, Matt's going to show you in a few minutes. We'll help you navigate the financial aid forms within the software. So you're not out on an island trying to figure all this stuff out. So real quick, how does financial aid work? Basically, the biggest takeaway, and this is one of the counterintuitive things in this process, is we all know college is just out of control. The most expensive schools, if you don't know, probably going to ruin your night, are over $100,000 a year, which is nuts for any school, in my opinion. But it kind of doesn't matter. This sticker price, this cost of attendance is irrelevant because all the colleges are discounting. The big thing is, how do they discount, and how are they going to discount for your finances within your family and for your child and their profile, their grades and their test scores? So they do it in 3 different ways. The bucket on the far left, need-based grants, it's free money, but you have to have need, as the name says. So you have to have financial need. You submit the financial aid forms, the colleges assess your need. So that's one bucket. That could be federal, state, or the college. Most of it is from the college. We call that institutional aid. The middle bucket is merit-based scholarship. So that's the flip side. It's free money again, but it's not based on your finances. Bill Gates's kids can get merit-based scholarships. That's the Office of Admissions enticing that student to come to their college. They don't even care about your ability to pay. They're like, hey, you're getting a $20,000 a year discount. That's very typical. So it's a lot of money. Then that third bucket is self-help. So that's loans, work study, which is a need-based form of aid. Your child gets a job, works, and gets a paycheck, and you decide as a family how that's going to cover the cost of college. So those are those 3 buckets. So how does the need base? We're going to spend a few minutes on that, and then we'll jump into merit. So how does need-based work? Very simple equation. That sticker price I just talked about, the cost of attendance, minus something called a student aid index. We've left the old term on here, EFC, expected family contribution, because some colleges are still using that term, or they might even just say family contribution. This is what gets calculated on the financial aid forms. They take the difference, and that's your need. So if a school costs 100,000, like I was just talking about, you have an SAI of 50,000, you have need of 50,000. It doesn't mean you look and go, oh, I'm good. I can pay 50,000 between myself and grandparents. That doesn't mean that's what you're going to pay. That just means that's what that's the college's starting point. How your needs going to be met and what each college is going to look at, that's the devil in the details. And that's why we exist. Honestly, that's why our software exists. That's why our team of experts, Jason being one of them, exists, because we've got to help you navigate that. So how is this SAI calculated? Two main buckets, assets and income. It's for the student as well as the parents, and on both sides. So assets, biggest takeaway, it's non-retirement assets only. And when we get to the 7 key tips for the FAFSA, one of them is going to be don't put your retirement accounts on the FAFSA. They ask for your net worth of investments. It's all non-retirement, not 401k, 403b, IRAs. Everything else that's not retirement, though, is fair game. So that means checking, savings, CDs, stock and bond portfolio. I used to live outside of Seattle. All these Microsoft people get grants. They vest. That's non-retirement money. All of that gets included. If you have been fortunate enough to save in a 529 and you're the owner and your child's the beneficiary, that's an asset of yours, not your child's. That's another key thing to keep in mind. It's a common mistake, logical mistake. Also, on the FAFSA, you're only putting the balance in one of the child that's going to college. So I have twins, like I said. I had 2 529s, but on Brennan's, I put his balance. On Shannon's, I put hers. You don't combine them. So that's a new rule from a couple years ago. Any other 529s that exist that other people own, grandparents, aunts, uncles, they're not disclosed. They're not in the household. Jointly owned accounts, if you're on it with your child, which is common for minors, put it in your bucket. The reason why I keep stressing that is that student assets are assessed much higher, 20 or 25% versus a little shy of 6% usually for the parents. So very, very different, huge difference in percentages. And then real estate. Real estate, most schools, and Matt's going to touch on this when we show you a sample family, most schools don't look at the home you live in. If you're renting, it doesn't matter. But if you own your home and the bank owns part of it and that's the home you live in, most schools are not going to look at that. They're not going to ask about it. There are a group of schools that do, but most don't. Any other real estate, it's on the table. Vacant land, vacation home, whatever that happens to be, an investment property that's not in a business. That's all on the table. Business values are on the table as well. Assets are literally assessed the day you hit submit, if you want to be that exact about it. Now let's look at income. Income is the opposite. It's not a real-time view of your income. It's a 2-year look back. We call that prior year. So you can see on the slide, easiest way to remember it, whenever your child is starting that year of college, it could be their junior year of college, whatever the year is, subtract 2, and that's the tax year you're going to be reporting on. So all of you, we're going to get to the FAFSA and CSS in a minute. When you get in there in a few weeks, you're going to see it's all about 2024. That's going to be what we call your base year. And then you're going to do it every year after that. And it's the 24, 25, 26, 27. It's mostly based on your adjusted gross income. There's a few other throw-ins. Parental income is by far the biggest driver of this SAI because kids don't have major income. And you can see on here, even if they do, they're making into 5 figures in a year. It's a wash at the FAFSA only schools if it's 11, 5, 10. So those are the two pieces there. So for all of you that we know have set up your MyCap account, you see your two SAIs up there, and we'll get into why there's two. Matt's going to get into that. But if those numbers are big, and all three of us have seen that hundreds and hundreds of times through the years, you're not eligible for need-based aid. I'm telling you though, do your homework before you come to that conclusion. If you haven't set up your account, don't come to that conclusion without actually checking what you think. Then what's going to matter is that middle bucket, that merit aid bucket on that first or second slide I showed. So a couple things we want to talk about with merit. I already explained it has nothing to do with your finances. If you look on this slide, you're going to see some colleges require the two financial aid forms to get it. And you're saying, well, what the hell is that about, Peg? Very valid question, right? Doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. NYU being one of those schools, very popular school throughout the country. If you don't submit those forms, they're not going to look at you for merit aid. So you could be leaving literally tens of thousands of dollars a year on the table. That's one of the many reasons we're going to talk about that you need to submit these forms. The other thing to keep in mind is there are about 100, maybe a little bit more schools in this country that do not offer merit aid. It's not part of what we like to call it cap their business plan. They're discounting, just like I told you, all these schools do, but they're not discounting with merit scholarships. There's no kid on the Dartmouth campus who's getting a merit scholarship, even if they got perfect ACT, perfect SAT, and they had a 5.3 weighted GPA in high school. They just don't do it that way. They're great at need-based aid. That doesn't mean if you have a $150,000 SAI, you shouldn't apply to these schools, but you should do it with your eyes wide open, and you should think about how you're going to write a full check or find other ways to fill that gap. The last thing about need-based aid, and this is something, we're still in September, so your kids have built their list, but we'll plant this seed. Applying to competing colleges is a big deal. We do comprehensive work with families and will always encourage students, like add some of these schools on your list. Matt gives this example all the time about Northwestern and BU, Boston University, right? It's a beautiful campus, but it's a city campus. I used to work at BU. Like the T goes right through it. If you love that and it's, there's so much energy and you're like, I don't like the feel of Northeastern, we're going to tell you we'll apply to Northeastern anyways because they're competing colleges. And down the road, if you were to get merit awards at both, because they both give merits competitive, you can appeal based on that. And appealing is down the road. It's part of the process that we help families with. But that's a real forward thinking. So I'm saying that because it might get your wheels turning. Oh, what are some competing schools here that maybe you could put on the list? And it's not a big heavy lift with essays and stuff, that might be something we can talk to you about one-on-one. So Matt, I think I've gone on enough here. I think it's time for you to take over here.
Peggy, don't steal my shine. You know I don't like that. Enough's enough here. Look, you're going to be impressed with the audience tonight. Phenomenal questions. Great. They're keeping us busy here, Jason. We're already 60 questions answered, right? So these guys are
Wow,
delivering.
you guys are killing it.
Yeah, as promised, couple things here, and we got a good citizen in the chat, right? We got somebody doing God's work in the chat, reminding our audience that please put your questions in the Q&A, not the chat. That's kind of where we're living, just so we can have everything in one space. We're not ignoring you there in the chat, but we're not going to answer your questions in there. It's in the Q&A. We will do our very best to get to
Pop
all of
it
them.
in there and we'll do our best.
And again, if we don't get to you there, again, we are not ignoring you. We're just we're outgunned a little bit tonight, so we're going to do our very best, I promise. And again, as advertised, I've said this a bunch of times. We got great questions. How do I, which one? We're divorced. Who should complete the FAFSA, right? How do I value my business? What should happen with this trust? Should I use the UTMA first or the 529 to pay for college? This piece of property, can it be considered a business? So there's just a couple of questions that got rattled off. You know who you are. And I wasn't being lazy when I said, you got to book some time and talk to us because we just got to get some more information. For me to make a recommendation to any of those, again, would just be reckless and I'd be flying blind here. So a couple things, guys. If you haven't done it already, and what's really cool, I see that just about all of you have, which is sweet. Go right now, create your MyCap account. Just break in right now and create your MyCap account. I put the link in the chat again because a ton of the questions we're getting and some of the assumptions, I don't think I'm going to be eligible for need-based financial aid. Or does this college, are they going to look at my home equity? Are they going to look at both parents if we're divorced or separated? How do I know what my SAI is, right? Are these net price calculators accurate at the colleges? This is your cheat code to this whole deal, guys. This is your cheat code. And I know Peggy said, set up your free account. I'm going to say take it one step further, pay $4.99 and upgrade to the premium. That's not a huge risk, right? Especially when we're looking at this size of the investment. That way you can put every college in the world, or I shouldn't say the world. We don't have every college in the world. Every college in the country, and the more popular ones overseas. Instantly, we're going to tell you how much it's going to cost your family, among a lot of other things. But don't overthink this one, guys. When I say, take action, right? Action absorbs anxiety. Set up this account, make the $4.99 investment, and make sure you're on the premium. So couple things I want to talk to. This is kind of our home page, right? I know a lot of you guys have this open right now. So you have your SAIs staring you in the face. And to further confuse you, there's two SAIs, right? Peggy, hinted this earlier. Most colleges, okay, use the federal SAI. That means they just require the FAFSA. That's the only financial aid application they require. And that is what they're going to use as kind of the foundation for determining your need-based financial aid eligibility. A lot of private colleges, there's about 300 thereabouts, and some public universities, some of the public Ivies, Michigan and UNC Chapel Hill and William and Mary, UVA, right, to name a few, they require the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA. And usually there's a range for this AI for a few reasons, and there's a couple of big drivers. Number one, a lot of the colleges that use this methodology, if you own your home, okay, the home that you live in, they consider that fair game. Okay, so my buddies at Boston College here, if your home's worth 600 and you owe 200 on it, Boston College says that's a $400,000 checking account, right? Literally, they treat it like a liquid asset. You have some other colleges, right? Here's Amherst College here. They're a good example. Yes, they use the institutional methodology. However, they're not going to count the equity in your home against you. They'll only look at other property if you have other property. And then there's some schools that are in between. Okay, they're going to say, well, we consider home equity, but not all of it. And how much we consider is tied to this formula that ultimately points back to your adjusted gross income. This is more than anybody is going to know. Okay. That's why it's all baked into the algorithm. You guys don't need to know it. You just put in your information and we're going to tell you what each of these colleges cost, right? You don't, Vanderbilt's a good example. So a big difference between the federal formula and the institutional formula. Most schools that use the institutional formula, if you're a split household family, so you are divorced or separated, okay, they're going to look at both households. And if you're remarried, they could be looking at two sets of step parents, right, as well. Amherst, Boston College, NYU, these are all examples of schools that if you're a split household, they're looking at both households. Vanderbilt, they use the institutional methodology. They look at your home equity. They don't look at the other household. They only look at one household if you're divorced or separated. So these are just a few examples of schools. The takeaway is they each have their own business model. And you don't need to know it the way that we know, each of these schools' business models, but you do need to know what they're going to cost, ideally, before you apply. If you're younger, we recommend know what this college is going to cost you before you go even visit the campus, right? We don't want our kids falling in love with the school that is just not going to be responsible for us, right, as a family. So, okay, so a couple things here. Let's get back. Let's see if we can get kind of keep this kind of great class participation going. I'm going to have you put this in the chat. Throw a college out at me, right? Here's where my kids go in early decision, or we're thinking about going in early decision, or this is my alma mater. Put some colleges in the chat right now. I want to take a look at a couple just so we can see some of these different business models. Northwestern was one of the first ones I saw here. If I can spell, give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Northwestern. Hold on a second. Do we break MyCAP, Peggy? Let's find out.
Wow.
1 second. Stop sharing for just a hot minute here.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about ED. We keep getting questions about that, so stay tuned. But
Well, you know what? Let me go to that, Peggy. Let me go to that. If you would, if you want to bring that slide up,
sure.
please, because we will skip right to the ED and then we'll see. Because I think my computer is being wonky.
I mean, it's a great question, and we get it all the time. So people that don't know, early decision is a way of applying for admission that's binding. So you're telling the college that you're coming. So you want me to take it, Matt, or
Oh,
you
I got it.
trying?
I'll hit
Okay.
this. I like talking through this because it is a great question, right? And to Peggy's point, this is the one where we can apply early action to as many schools as we want. You know, I can apply early action to 20 schools. My application deadlines are a little bit earlier, but I find out earlier whether or not I've been in or waitlisted, or whether I got in, I got waitlisted, I got deferred. And generally speaking, we get the financial aid offer early too. So it just gives us more time to make this huge decision, right? And so there's a lot of advantages to that. But again, I can apply early action to 20 colleges if I want. I'm beholden to none of them. If I apply early decision, number one, I can only apply early decision to one school. And if I go, me as the student, my parent, one of my parents, and then my school counselor at the high school that I go to has to sign this agreement saying if I get in, I'm going there. So this is a bigger decision, right? A bigger commitment that we have to sign that dotted line before we get our official financial offer too. So this is how I coach it. Okay, when I get this question for families, I say, look, there's two big boxes that we have to check with a lot of confidence here. Number one, your kid had to be one of these somewhat unique kids, right? We hear about these kids a lot because they're louder about it, but you had to be, you know, a somewhat unique in the sense of like this is your happy place. You just had an epiphany when you went there. It's checking all your boxes. You have to go to this school, right? And again, that's not a huge percentage of kids. I think most of us are like, I kind of like this, I kind of like that, but what do I know, right? That's 80% of kids, but there's a percentage of kids like this is my place. Okay, great, right? We know that, right? Just uh, beyond a shadow of doubt, you as the parents and as a family, you have to know what that college is going to cost you for all 4 years, and you have to be comfortable with that, right? That is it. And guys, unfortunate, good news, bad news here. We don't have any excuses for being in the dark now. If you're kind of in our ecosystem at all, you know what each of these colleges are going to cost you over the course of 4 years, right? And you know what that looks like next to your budget. We have a color by number graph that says here's your affordability profile, right? Is it ideal? Is it great? Is it good? Or is it in that caution part, right, of your affordability profile? If it's in that caution part, we really should probably pause before we go that ed route, right? So you have to look at that number as a family and say if that's the number, we can do it. And then guess what? If you check both of those boxes with confidence, bombs away, let's go, right? You have our blessing. Not that you need it, but that's how we coach it with families, right? And it's kind of your obligation to know, again, what it's going to cost you, where that fits in your affordability profile. And we know the student is all in. I don't know, Jason, Peg, do either of you guys have anything to add, or do you coach any differently when you're having this conversation?
Yeah, the short version that I tell parents is, look, if cost is not a concern, go for it, right? If cost is a concern, maybe think twice, but definitely think it through in terms of not just how much financial aid you're going to get, but the total affordability analysis. Like, is this school really worth it? Are there big salary differences? You know, those kinds of things. So it's a difficult decision to make if cost is a concern at all for you.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's important. It's like this is like it's such a unique investment in the sense of it's one of the bigger investments any of us will make, right? Sending our kids to college in the United States. Um, but we approach it so differently than any other major investment. We're not like hyper analytical around the ROI or what that's likely to be. It's just kind of like everybody just has we'll figure it out. Everybody else does, and hope for the best. And that's not hope is not a strategy, as we say here. Um, okay, Peggy, if you want to go to the next slide here, I think we'll hit one more before you walk us through. Um, the financial aid applications themselves.
You can see it, right?
Oh yeah, I got you. Sorry, pal. Okay, so we get the question all the time. One of our more, why the heck am I going to submit these financial aid applications if I'm not going to get any financial aid, right? It skipped for me to the CSS profile slide, Peggy. Uh,
Oh, that's CSS. I'm looking at FAFSA. That I didn't even hit. I must have hit something. Sorry about that. All right. It
cool.
should be, you're like have a major delay because it's
I
the
do.
should submit financial aid forms is up.
Okay, well it's up for me now. So the biggest one is, guys, so many people make the mistake of assuming they're not going to be eligible for need-based financial aid. I had this conversation earlier this week. I've had dozens upon dozens, if not more of them. Hey, look, I'm not going to get any financial aid. I make 350 grand. I got 100K and the kid's 529. I own my home. And, so I have another question. I stopped them right there. And I'm like, well, let me ask you a few other things. Long story short, especially the schools he was applying to, he's going to get about $50,000 worth of need-based financial aid. So, and he's looking at these more expensive $100,000 schools. Really bright kid. They're probably going to get into some. They're the schools that don't offer scholarships. If we never had that conversation, right, he would have left $200,000 on the table. Don't, and again, that's 350,000 is not nothing for an income, right? And that's just in a 529, 100K. That's meaningful. So I don't blame him for kind of disqualifying himself from aid, but he was dead wrong, right? By quite the margin. So you might be eligible, you don't realize it. Peg used the example earlier. A lot of these colleges, NYU is kind of the one we always, hang our hat on. If you want to be considered for scholarships, you have to do the financial aid applications. Okay. If you don't apply for financial aid freshman year, you're telling these colleges, I want to pay full sticker price, not just this year, for all 4 years. You do not, Peggy talked about this earlier today. I forget if it was on our podcast, not to brag, Peg, not to brag as podcast hosts, but or the webinar we did earlier, but she talked about um, some specific examples where parents said in something happened in sophomore year, junior year, we lost the job, or oh my goodness, we got in, we got out over our skis. We want to apply for financial aid now. Sorry, guys. You lost your opportunity, and the answer is no, right? So don't, and we don't know what's going to happen, even if we're in a great situation now. I think Peggy used the COVID example of being like, that wasn't on anybody's bingo card, right? We don't know what's going to happen here. Um, and so again, at least hedge, right? At least hedge. Another one that I really like, because look at a few of you, you're absolutely right. You're not going to be eligible for need-based financial aid. You've set up your MyCAP accounts and it's telling you your SAI is $220,000 a year, right? i.e., you're not getting need-based financial aid. You don't want your kids to borrow. You don't need your kids to borrow. Guess what? I still want you to complete the FAFSA. Take out the federal direct student loan that your kid is entitled to, so long as you go through these easy steps. Pay it off on their behalf each year. They're going to graduate with a perfect credit score, right? They're going to be 22 years old, have a 780 credit score, just because you kind of knew how to navigate the process the right way strategically, right? All these little things, all these kind of micro decisions add up. And that would just be a small example of one. Don't outthink yourselves here, guys. Complete and submit the FAFSA, full stop. All right, Peggy.
All right, here we go. I'm just finishing my answer. Hold on, I got a little typo in there. Okay. Okay, so now let's get into the actual brass tacks of this, how what you're going to need and some tips about submitting these forms. So you can see on the slide here, you're going to need your 2024 tax returns and everything else, your W-2s, your 1099s. You're going to want to have all that stuff. You're going to want to know your non-retirement asset account values. Remember, we talked about that. They're going to ask about that. Checking and savings is in that bucket. Real estate values and your mortgage info. The market value of your real estate. We'll talk about that on other webinars, but don't overvalue your real estate. Don't lie, but don't overestimate. So there's strategies around that to do that effectively. Because the higher your assets are, the more the colleges think you're going to be able to contribute. And then the retirement savings amounts. What I mean by that, actually, I should have written that better because I was like, what did I mean by that? So let me explain this. This is if you're saving pre-tax in a 401k, 403b, that kind of thing. That's what I'm getting at. You want to have those. That will be on your W-2 most of the time. So if you've got your W-2, you'll most likely see that information as well as your tax return. It could show up there. If child support's applicable, you're going to want to know the child support you got in the last calendar year. I know this gets confusing. It's not the prior year. It's the last calendar year. So if you're doing the forms this fall, which is what we recommend, it is going to be 24, so it's going to match. But if you were doing the forms in 26, it would be the 2025 amount. So let's get in the weeds here on the FAFSA. Somebody wrote and said, how do I get to the FAFSA? We have this funky URL up here. Just put in FAFSA.gov and it'll take you there. Easy to remember, FAFSA.gov. It goes live to everybody. I know we have a few parents with the younger kids, so you can't get in now. But for the 26-27 school year, everybody will be able to get in, knock on wood. But things I think have been going well. October 1. So we're not far away, okay? Again, it's prior year. I already talked about that. So it's going to be all about 2024. Many people have written in and unfortunately have said, I lost my job. I'm unemployed. You're going to be appealing, but you still have to submit 2024. Only one parent submits this if you're divorced or separated. And that's called the custodial parent. And that is the parent who provides the most financial support on a year look back from when you're hitting submit. It's not about a calendar or tax year. So again, there's a little bit of planning in there if you're going to submit it in a month. If you're 50-50, there is no such thing. Spend $1 more for the parent that's more advantageous. That's a big, nice planning opportunity for schools that only require the FAFSA. Now, the main thing you can actually do now while you're waiting for it to go live is to get your FSA ID. It's Federal Student Aid ID. If you Google it, the top search should be on your search results should be the studentaid.gov URL. Make sure it is. Don't click on some weird thing that's a dummy site because you're going to need to put in your social security number and your date of birth. You create security questions, username and password, just like you'd set something up for a bank site or whatever. Great news about this is when you do this, you should get real-time approval. It used to be that the Social Security Administration would take 1 to 4 business days to approve you. It should be a real-time approval. So that's great. I still don't recommend that you wait until right before you're going to start the FAFSA to do this. Just get it done and put that information somewhere safe because it's just like a password to any site. You want to have it safe. So let's talk about who needs to get not passwords, who needs to get FSA ID. The student definitely does. This is your child's FAFSA. It's not yours, even though you're probably going to be sitting there with them doing the lion's share of work or hiring somebody to help you, and we do that. It's still your child's FAFSA. So they need the FSA ID. Best practice, they start their FAFSA. You can be helping them. They could be just sitting there while you're doing it with them, whatever. Log in with that. So they need it. Then it comes to who else needs it. The other people that are involved are called contributors. Doesn't mean that you're required to contribute money. So it's not a great terminology that the government made up, but it is what it is. It just means you're contributing information to your child's FAFSA. So let's cover like the most common family setups. So you're married and you file taxes married filing jointly. One parent needs to get the FSA ID and password. The reason is, and I explained this in the Q&A, your tax information is going to move from the IRS into the FAFSA. You are going to approve and consent. You don't have any choice anymore. You have to do it that way unless you fall into an exception category. And I'm not gonna, if your tax status is different, your marital status has changed from prior year, it'll prompt you to enter it. But for most families, you're not going to have a choice. It's going to do it. It's going to tell you that it did it. So if you're married filing jointly, you have one tax return. So only one person has to consent to have that done. If you file married filing separately, you got 2 tax returns. So each of you needs to get that. So it's logical because you both need to pull your tax information from the IRS. Remember, if you're divorced or separated, only that custodial parent is submitting the FAFSA. So that's the only person that the other biological parent is not involved in the FAFSA. So they don't need to get the FSA ID. So hopefully that's clear on the most common scenarios of who needs to get these. If you've gone to grad school and you already have one, you're good. It's per taxpayer. If you have an older child and you've already submitted the FAFSA, your younger child can't use your older child. Each person needs to have their own FSA ID, okay? All right, now let's get into like tips and tricks here, okay? Some of these things we've already mentioned. Do not put retirement account balances on the FAFSA. Somebody wrote in, great question. If you have a pension, the balance in your pension is a retirement account, but the income from your pension, and I know it's kind of confusing, that's the income bucket, not the asset bucket. That's going to be on your 1040. That's taxable. That's going to be part of it, but not the balance in that account. So that's kind of the nuance there. Your primary home, which we both talked about tonight, that does not go in the net. It's just a giant bucket question that they ask, net worth of investments. And the real estate goes in there, but not the primary home that you live in. So make sure you don't make that mistake and inflate your assets. On the 529 front, I've already mentioned this, but remember, you're only putting the balance for your child that's going to college. If you have 3 kids and you've been fortunate enough to save a lot for each of them, the other 2 don't go in that question. Only the child that's going to college. Work study, I talked about that way at the beginning. There's a question in there. Just say yes to work study. You're not obligated to take it. You might even not be eligible for it because you have to have need. Just mark the box so that if it's applicable to your family, you'll be able to take advantage of it if you're awarded that. Realize, and again, I said this at the beginning, your student aid index doesn't mean that's what you're going to pay. And by the way, most people, talked about this earlier, most people are shocked when they see their SAIs. They always think it's for 4 years. I get that question all the time, and I have to be the terrible person that says, nope, you got to multiply it by 4. I've had one mom in all these years that was like, yeah, I get it, Peg. And I said, damn, now I can't say anymore that I've never had a parent say that. But it's been thousands of people. So if you're in that boat, just take a deep breath. Most people are. They're shocked at that number. Don't overvalue your business or your secondary real estate or your primary home, because on the CSS profile, that's going to matter. Just don't overvalue things. You don't lie, but you don't overvalue. So there's strategy there, and that's something that we help families one-on-one with all the time this time of year. And then huge, do not miss deadlines. I put in one of the Q&A questions. Somebody said, when do we have to submit these? We have a comprehensive package that we work with people, and when the expert that's working with them, it's like, we're getting your forms done for you in October. So we don't have to go look up every college. We know we've covered all of our bases and you're good and you have it in on time. You can go check each college, but because they all have different deadlines based on how your child's applying for admission, it's very punitive if you miss deadlines, even if your child's in college. I've had people that lose $10,000 in need-based aid, and I'm like, did you miss the deadline? Because I can't see why you got this package. And then sure enough, yep, she did. And then you're going back to the college, falling on your sword, saying, please, oh, please, I screwed up, right? So anyways, so those are the 7, lot more things to the FAFSA, but we tried to hit like the top 7 so we're not completely overwhelming you. Okay, last form, the CSS profile. Had some questions in there. This is not optional if the college requires it. I answered that. And it's not in lieu of the FAFSA. It's with the FAFSA. You have to do both. It also goes live October 1. It's through College Board. So your kids have done AP, PSAT, SAT. They have a College Board login. You don't have to make up anything analogous to an FSA ID. So that's a good thing. Only about 250 colleges require it. Matt already went through this. He mentioned a few of the publics, but they're mostly private. Key differences between the CSS profile and the FAFSA. The primary home you live in is on the table at most of these schools. They're going to ask you the market value. They're going to ask you your mortgage or mortgages. If you have more than one lien, HELOC, that type of thing. They're going to ask when you bought it and what you bought it for. And they're going to do the math. And some schools like Boston College will literally look at that as like a checking account that you can tap. You might not agree with that. So that might be a reason to not seriously consider Boston College. But then there's other schools that require this form, like Stanford, that says, you know what, we don't expect parents to tap their equity. I'm not trying to make your head spin. We have all this built into MyCAP to the point that we look at colleges and say, they look at it, but they don't look at it 100%. And we have tranches in there. We're doing all the work for you because we know how this works. So again, take advantage, set up your free account and upgrade for the $4.99. It's all in there for you.
And it's a
If you're
screaming deal,
divorced,
Peggy. It's a screaming deal, isn't
it's
it?
a screaming deal. It's a no-brainer and it's a screaming deal. Yes. Okay. If you're a divorced or separated family, different here. There is a custodial parent per the FAFSA definition that I went over. You're going to submit the CSS profile with your child. The other biological parent is the non-custodial parent, and they're going to submit what's called the non-custodial profile. Very similar form. That person, if it's say it's mom's going to be filling in all of her financial stuff. Both of those forms go to College Board. It's private. So if some couples I work with, they know each other's finances, but it's very common that they don't. So you don't have to worry that your ex is going to see your information. They are not. They both go to College Board, and most of these colleges will look at both parents. Not all of them. There's a few that don't look at a non-custodial parent, even though they require the CSS, just like schools that don't look at home equity. And again, we have that all built in to our tool. We know what schools those are. And I saw this question, and I've worked last year. I had a few heartbreaking examples of this with families. Say the non-custodial parent is off the grid, or it's not safe for your child to interact with that parent. There is something called a non-custodial waiver, and it's well worth your time to submit that to College Board and the individual colleges. Now, my ex just doesn't want to pay. That's not a legit reason. I know that's frustrating, but it's just not. There needs to be reasons for the student. You don't know where the person is, whatever that happens to be. And we help people do that all the time, like craft that information and send it into the colleges. And then they'll say, all right, we get it. So we're not going to wait for that non-custodial profile, because they will wait for that. And until it's there, you don't have a complete financial aid. Forms aren't completed and they can't give you their money. Basically, they can't give you a package. Business owners, huge planning opportunities and a lot of nuances there when it comes to financial aid forms. Both, no, you know what? Not both. The FAFSA now, if you're a small business, which is defined as less than 100 full-time employees and your family owned, the value of your business is not disclosed. Anything, if you don't fall in that bucket, then it is. But on the CSS, and you're starting to see the theme here, like kind of everything's out on the table on the CSS. They're going to ask all about your business. If you're an S Corp, they're going to want to see your 1120S. You're going to be uploading all your tax returns to these colleges for them to look over. So CSS Profile is much longer, more complex. We will do webinars on best practice and strategies around that. But remember, you need to do both. Some of our tips here are similar to the.
Oh, Peggy, before we get in, why don't you at least tease them with the most obvious tip for the FAFSA versus the CSS profile? That should have its own slide.
You mean that's the same, or that's what do you mean?
I mean, Uncle Billy's.
So
Billy's
yeah.
tried and true
Yeah, so
advice.
Billy Rabbit, what he likes to say is, when you're doing the FAFSA, and it depends, what you like to drink. And we're not talking to students, we're only talking to parents over 21. So if you like to drink beer, which I do, or you like to drink espresso martinis, which I do, or you like to drink wine, which I don't, you're going to have one of those things when you're doing the FAFSA. But when you're doing the CSS profile, you're gonna have to up the ante. Like, we're kidding, right? But it's just, the point is that it's arduous, and there are strategies that we've figured out at CAP through the years, because our team has literally gone through probably tens of thousands of these with all of our families. So there's ways to make it easier and to do it so you're not making the mistakes and you're getting through it without as much stress. And a few of these we're sharing with you right here. When you get into that CSS, you're going to see that there's required questions and not required. um, don't answer the not required questions. I say that, but then I'm going to undo it and say, sometimes I tell a family, hey, I want you to answer that one for this reason. And you're not being dishonest by doing that. Remember, you're uploading all of your tax returns. You're not hiding anything from these colleges. So makes it easier to complete. And if they're telling you it's not required, it's not required. Just like the FAFSA, don't overvalue any real estate, don't overvalue your business. And in this case, we're throwing in your primary residence because they're going to ask about that, unlike the FAFSA. Do not include 529s, and we talked about this common mistake. Maybe I didn't talk about this. Many parents will say, well, I'm saving this for my child, it's earmarked, it's not my money, when in fact the IRS sees it as your money still. That's their money, so I'm going to put that on their part of the forms. No, 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 that's going to really hurt you, and it's incorrect. It's your account. It's your non-retirement account. So don't make that mistake. And on the CSS profile, there's a question that says, it's in the student section. So it's asking the student, what can your parent or parents contribute? How can they help you for this coming school year? So this is a question that you have to answer. It's not going to help you, whatever you put there, but if you don't answer that correctly, it could really hurt you. And that's the number one question that no parent knows how to answer that. So you just, we're teeing that up, and we can't tell you how to answer that en masse on a webinar. We're just prepping you that that is one of the questions that is confusing. Again, same theme, don't overestimate future earnings. They're going to ask you about 2025 on the form. The CSS, again, a lot more questions than the FAFSA. And then two more. Last one is the same as deadlines across the board matter for admissions and financial aid. So just keep that in mind. But number 6 is really important too. There's a special circumstances section. You get to almost the end. Well, it is the end if there aren't supplemental questions. And then they ask, and some people put stuff in here tonight that things have happened. Life happens, right? We strongly encourage you, don't write a novel there and share all of your hardships. Keep it in your pocket, submit the CSS profile, and then when it comes to appeal time, you say, thank you very much for your package. Now let me tell you that I lost my job, or whatever it happens to be. And then you're forcing them to reassess your situation. If you spell it all out and you get a package that you don't like, you say, hey, but wait, they're going to say, well, we took that into account. We saw it, we read it, we took it into account. So keep that. I know for some parents it's really hard. They want to share right away, but it really makes strategic sense not to do that. So
Thank you. Let me
this is
oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
no,
Finish.
no.
I want to bust in because I was the one having tech issues here.
Okay.
So we're up
Yeah.
and running.
Okay.
I'd love to
Okay, yeah,
hear.
I'm done here, so I'm gonna turn over to Matt, but I just need to show this slide last because you heard a lot from me. You're probably like, okay, Peg, enough. We're done hearing you. But this is my dog Ashling. So just want everybody to go, oh, and then you just feel a little better after hearing all this stuff about financial aid forms. So I'm gonna turn it over to Matt. We're not done yet, so don't
Okay,
leave.
and stick
Oh,
around, guys,
thank you for all the emojis.
because remember I got 2 action items for you here. So
Yeah,
and
yeah, we're not done.
we'll wrap here in 6 minutes. So back to where we were. I want to look at some particular colleges quick, and I see a lot of you have been doing this as we've been talking, and you guys are finalizing your list of schools. So Northwestern was the first one we saw. So any college, right? Get your account set up right now. Don't wait another second. Get your account set up right now. Treat yourself, $4.99. Upgrade to the premium so you can see what any college in the country costs, right? And if I look at Northwestern, they're almost $100,000. I'm going to pay $66,000. Why? for any school, I can take this deep dive, right? And I have some helpful information here. Okay, what's the average GPA? What's the average test score, right? Where does my kid fall within that? What's the average acceptance rate? But the financial is what we're interested in, right? How much am I going to pay every single year, not just this year, but for all 4 years? And then, of course, I have some context as to why. Well, how generous are they with financial aid? How generous are they in terms of meeting merit-based scholarships? Do they give merit-based scholarships, right? And then this is what we talk about because we got a ton of questions. Well, I want to know what schools only require the FAFSA versus what schools require the CSS profile. In other words, who's going to look at my or who's more likely to look at home equity? Who's more likely to look at both households? And then we have this for every single school, right? And so if you want to see, okay, institutional methodology, Northwestern, they're probably looking at home equity. They are. They're probably looking at both households if we're divorced or separated. They are. Okay. Now again, there's exceptions, but that's all baked into the algorithm here. Okay. I want to look at another college. Baylor was another one that I saw right away. Okay. Um, oh my god. Oh my goodness. Really am having a go of it tonight. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay, so if we look at Baylor, for example, if it will allow me to look at Baylor. Okay, so let's take a deep dive here because another, I think, really interesting thing that we have for every school in the country, we have every single scholarship that they offer at every single college. What makes us unique is we're going to tell you is, well, how much is your kid actually going to get, right? In the case of Baylor, we're going to get 30 grand regardless of our income. Okay. And then again, for every college, we can kind of see, well, how does this fit? Okay, I know what it's going to cost for 4 years. How does that fit from affordability standpoint and ROI standpoint versus my budget versus what we expect the student to make their first year after graduating college based on the college, based on the major, right? There's an enormous amount of data that's baked in here, and we try to start high level and then drill down, right? This is what I mean by just like you can kind of have a heat map for which of your colleges are most likely to be, ideal budget, great, good, and let's pump the brakes type of deal. Okay. Another thing I want to show you as you're finalizing your list of schools, you can search just based on who's going to give you the most money, right? This is a part of our premium, $4.99, but I think that's a small price to pay when we're talking about investments like this. So we have dozens of filters here, but let's just say I say, hey, I know my kid wants to go to a 4-year school. They're going to be, more comfortable at a smaller campus. They probably want to be, somewhat close to home, and maybe they want to major in whatever. And again, there are dozens of filters we can put in here. And then I go to apply those filters. And the nice thing here is if I want, I can just go search literally based on what school is going to be the most affordable or who's most generous with need-based financial aid. We will instantly rank order that. And then again, the technology will match that, but these academic preferences with, who's best with need-based financial aid, or I'm not eligible for need-based financial aid. Great. Just search based on who's going to give you the most in merit-based scholarship. So put this to the test, guys. We're going to be way more accurate than any net price calculators. We have an overwhelming amount of data that proves that, right? Matter of fact, we've done a whole bunch of webinars on it. But do this, right? This is the first action item that you have to do tonight. Go ahead and treat yourself to the $4.99 upgrade. Do that tonight. Action absorbs anxiety. When you do that, you will feel better, okay? And then what we want to do, talk to us. If you book this tonight, right? You don't have to, obviously, you're not going to meet with us tonight. I promise you, the three of us are done for the day. You're not going to meet with us tonight, but book some time with us later this week, next week. Obviously, time is of the essence, especially if you're class 2026. We want to learn more about your situation. Then we can give you recommendations. Here's how we can help you decide how you should value your business. Here, how we should, I heard, I had a few questions around inheritances. Here's how we can help you think about the best way to position that. Here's how we can help you figure out which household should be completing the financial aid applications, who's going to give you the most money, which colleges are competing with one another. That's one of the hardest ones, right? Here's your list of schools. Well, we have to have competitors on there. Who do they compete with directly, right? We can tell you that. Talk to us. Okay, we got a lot of questions like, do you do this for people? Yes, we do. We'll do the financial aid applications for you, right? We can work with you from now until the end. As a matter of fact, if you want to go on here, we have some specifics in terms of our services. Here's what we do financial aid. Here's what we do with admissions. Here what we do for both but book some time with us. That's your action item tonight. Create your account, upgrade to the 499, right? Let's not overthink that. And book some time to talk to us, right? To help you decide, am I a DIYer? Do I kind of got this? And if you're a DIYer, great. All you need is just kind of join the club, right? Pay that 499, and we're off to the races here. For some of you, you probably want some more comprehensive help. It probably makes sense to invest in that, and you can get the specifics, and we'll try to just put you in the right place for success. But take some action, right? I'm gonna end with what I started with. Action absorbs anxiety. Book some time to talk with us. Set up your account, right? Make sure that you get all the bells and whistles for $4.99, and you will feel better. Um, Peggy, I'll get on.
Somebody said all the meeting slots are booked.
There should be. I'm seeing time here for. I'm seeing time. It should be. I'm
Here,
still
let
seeing
me
time
go.
here for other. I'm seeing other times, guys. You might have. So if people go to book times at the same time, sometimes they block you. So just go back or refresh it, and I will share this link again, and you'll be able to find a time because there's times. See, um,
Yeah, there. I've been trying to keep up with the question Q&A here. So many questions, but a lot of the questions, it's best if you just chat with us because there's complexity, or we would need to know more, or I don't really want to give you any kind of advice without knowing the full context and all that kind of stuff. So if I said that in one of your as an answer to one of your questions, please know that I'm suggesting this is the best way to get a full accurate answer to your question, because we just need to know more or something more like that. So
yeah, exactly.
a lot of really good questions.
Exactly, and I said at the top for those of you guys that for those of you guys that were on at the top, I said, look, we're going to get a lot of great questions, and sometimes the most uh I guess common answer is going to be you got to book some time with us. We got to learn more, and that's not a lazy answer. That is, again, to say anything else for us would be reckless. We'd be flying blind. So I apologize if we did not get to your question, right? That's why we kind of have this opportunity where everybody can talk to us, right? At a minimum, set up your free account, guys, right? Like, let's not overthink that one. If you're the other thing to do here, guys, if I am still seeing times in September, but I see a few people are not. It might just be that just too many people are booking, right? I will put this in the chat as well. Right into support@collegeaidpro.com. They'll get you on our calendar. Um,
Yeah, because the one link I was clicking on, it was saying none in September. So use Matt's link that he just put in the chat, because that one shows availability as of Monday. So I'll put it in the chat again. So don't, the one that's on the landing page, don't worry. Yeah, now we both put it in the chat. So use that one because that's got stuff, that's got openings on the 22nd. So, which is Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All three of us very much appreciate it. And Jason, thank you so much for joining us. You're
Dr.
rocking
Jason
it.
Sloan,
You're
not the
rocking it.
Dr. J, not the snobby doctor either. You didn't even correct me, Jason. You were in that PhD.
Dr. J or J Bone, whatever we call you on a given day.
Dr. J, but not the NBA player. That's the other one.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Excellent questions. Appreciate all the just engagement. It just helps us, right? We talk about this a lot. We give similar presentations a lot, so it makes a lot more engaging for us, funner for us, when it's
I
in
don't
our.
think funner is a word, but we'll go with that anyways.
I had funner. It was funner for me. So speak for yourself there, Peggy.
We
Okay.
got a PhD in our midst here with Jason. You can't be saying the word funner. Come
I
on.
can, I
Creative
can,
writing. We'll go with creative writing right there. That's it.
I don't have those credentials.
Perfect.
Okay, we know, buddy. On that note, we're gonna call it a night. So everybody have a good evening. See you next time.
Right.